his advice is why he's the first one I visit.
Victims count their losses following fire disaster in Oyo State.
This morning I was called that fire burn everywhere. And now this is my two shop. Everything has gone.
And Nigeria's First Lady donates food items to groups in Gombe State.
And proliferation of rice mills reshapes the economy landscape of Kano State.
And we begin the news at 10 on a bilateral note, and from the villa where President Muhammadu Buhari has enjoined the incoming government in Guinea-Bissau not only to ensure inclusivity, but also pursue genuine peace-building efforts towards uniting the country for sustainable growth and development.
This was while granting audience to the president-elect of the troubled West African nation, Umaru Sissoco Embalo. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
Popularly referred to as the General, the President-elect of Guinea-Bissau, Umaru Sissoco Embalo, a former army chief, served as Prime Minister of the country between 2016 and 2018. The 47-year-old opposition candidate got elected in a second round of voting to beat another ex-Prime Minister in an election described as free, fair, and credible by the United Nations and other election observers. He is here to say thank you to President Muhammadu Buhari for Nigeria's tremendous support and assistance towards stabilizing his country and ensuring the success of the electoral process. Mr. Embalo, accompanied to the State House by Guinea-Bissau's Minister of Foreign Affairs, as well as that country's ambassador to Nigeria, solicited continued support to his incoming presidency, assuring President Buhari that he will not let the people down. What did the president tell you?
They give me good advice. You know, President Buhari is somebody who all of us we respect in Africa, and I keep his advice. Is why he's the first one of the first country I visit. We know President Buhari. We respect him a lot in Africa because he's a correct man, gentleman, and Pan-Africanist. Is why I'm here. I am his son. So don't forget, President Buhari. I can't call him President Buhari. I already tell him, I'm going to still keep calling Baba.
The president told him that he has to be inclusive, basically, and has to pursue peace, that because without that, there will be no development for the country, and that the ultimate reason for becoming a head of state is to deliver development for your people.
The Republic of Guinea-Bissau, a country of less than 2 million people, has seen 9 coups or attempted coups since 1974. The incumbent president, Jose Mario Vaz, who crashed out of the election in the first round of voting, is the first head of state to carry out his term without being deposed.
The country has been in crisis for a long period of time. Mr. President has maintained a number of Nigerian troops there. And these Nigerian troops have maintained stability, and sometimes it looked as if it might tip over the edge, but they've maintained it. And then Mr. President was engaged throughout the process. First of all, you had legislative elections, and it looked as if those wouldn't take place, but it did. Mr. President authorized a significant sums of money for all the electoral kit, because at one time they said they couldn't hold those elections because they didn't have the materials and so forth. Mr. President provided resources for them, and so they had to go forward with that. He really shepherded them through the legislative elections. He sent me and the president of the ECOWAS Commission to Guinea-Bissau on about 4 or 5 occasions, to keep everybody calm, keep all the political parties calm, moving them forward, and they kept moving forward. And then right at the very end, at one stage, it looked as if these presidential elections wouldn't take place because the incumbent president fired the prime minister who was supposed to organize the elections. And again, it looked as if things would not work out. But, Mr. President was very engaged, and this is the result, peaceful elections at the end of the day.
The president-elect Umaru Embalo has formally invited the Nigerian leader to Bissau for his inauguration coming up on February 19, 2020. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And in other matters, one person has been confirmed dead, while 2 others sustained high degrees of fire injuries following a fire outbreak at a Keson market in Oyo State.
Larry Belay reports that the whole market was destroyed by the inferno.
Goods and properties worth billions of naira were destroyed during the fire outbreak, which was said to have started around 2 a.m. The cause of the incident could not be ascertained, but some eyewitness attributed its cause to power spark.
We called the people from the Ibadan. They sent us the firefighter, and they tried a lot. Fire is so much. It's so much for people to quench. So because they had fracture of the leg, as well as fracture of the femur. A case of head injury is being currently stabilized at State Hospital.
The Alaafin of Oyo, Lamidi Adeyemi III, described the disaster as unfortunate.
And totally everything has been lost. So we want to commiserate with the market men and women for the loss. It's irreparable. Only God can console them.
2 of the victims that sustained degrees of injuries have been referred to the University Teaching Hospital in Ibadan, while others are receiving treatment at the State Hospital in Oyo Town. Larry Bilayi, NTA News.
Meanwhile, barely a few hours after tragedy struck popular Keson Market in Oyo Town, another furniture area and shops of not less than 100 in Iyaganku in Ibadan was razed by midnight fire. Here we have our correspondent Femi Johnson with the rest of the story.
24 hours ago, this place was a beehive of activities, as many do come here to purchase their furniture. Even some people were here not long before the fire incident to purchase furniture. However, the rest is now history. The place is completely burnt, as the midnight fire incident, which occurred, has completely rendered this place useless.
We have been here since 4:30. When we hear all these places are engulfed with fire, so we try to cool everywhere.
With me here is
Sisolani.
So how do you feel about this now?
It's too plenty. It's not okay at all. Not okay at all.
What will be the fate of 100 victims and over 400 million property that has been destroyed?
I was in my house this morning. I was called that fire burned everywhere. And this is my 2 shop. Everything has gone. I don't know even what happened.
One government to help us because we don't know what to do. Everything here, our machine.
People in Oyo State, particularly residents, have been advised to be cautious of what they do this period of Harmattan.
So maybe through the high tension of electricity, that should be another main cause, or burning of disused refuse. That is why the time of Harmattan, you should not burn anything.
Government should please come to our aid. We have nobody to help us.
In Ibadan, Femi Johnson, NTA News.
Still on fire disaster, another fire outbreak has destroyed property worth millions of naira at a building housing offices and banks along Ahmadu Bello Way, Kaduna.
Well, this comes about 24 hours after the gas explosion in the city. My Jamal Ademo tells us more.
The cause of the fire outbreak cannot be ascertained, but it was suspected to be an electrical fault.
You can see all these deep freezers where the fire started from. So those deep freezers were on. And then when the light came in, when the power came in, I think there was some internal sparking or something like that.
However, the quick response of the Kaduna State Fire Service helped in containing the inferno from escalating.
Well, we are yet to ascertain the cause of the fire, but as you can see, we are doing our best to make sure that we bring the fire under control.
No life was lost. The incident is coming barely 24 hours after gas explosion in Kaduna metropolis. In Kaduna, Maijama Adamu, NTA News.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed deep sadness over the gas explosion, which led to the death of the chairman, Nigeria Atomic Energy Commission, Professor Simon Malam, his son and 3 others at Sabantasha area of Kaduna on Saturday. Reacting to the incident, President Buhari said he is deeply touched by the unfortunate incident that claimed the lives of Professor Simon Malam, his son and others. He said the death of the erudite professor has robbed Nigeria of a great scientist whose services were acutely needed at a time when the nation is increasing emphasis on science and technology for development. The president sympathized with the chairman's family and those of other victims of the gas explosion. He prayed God to comfort the families and give them the fortitude to bear the loss.
And indeed, may the souls of the departed rest in peace. Meanwhile, the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria has reopened Port Harcourt International Airport for normal flight activities. The airport was temporarily closed due to reported bushfire within the vicinity of the airport. A statement by management of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN, says following a careful evaluation and mitigation of the impact of the bushfire earlier reported around the Port Harcourt International Airport and the dissipation of smoke around the airside, the facility is now declared safe for operations.
You're watching the news at 10 on NTA News 24, reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. When we return,
we'll take a look at the impact of federal government's promotion of digital economy on revenue generation. Stay with us.
glad to know you're still there. And out to business. State governments advised to deliver on critical infrastructure. Details of this and more on Business News.
Key players have lauded President Muhammadu Buhari's strategic plan to deliver on critical infrastructure and increase local production of food in 2020. They, however, appeal to the sub-nationals to also emulate the president and come up with their own agenda for the year.
We will be feeling the impacts of all these policy positions and all that in our neighborhood, and that is where it is important, so that growth, development is not felt on the highway, it's felt on the back streets.
On federal government's continued effort to fund the revenue gap in the power sector, Mr. Niyi Akinsiju said.
A signed agreement between Nigeria as a sovereign and Germany as a sovereign, bringing in cement, to take over part of the electrical value chain. I also know specifically that the sum of 61 billion naira had been committed, to that, for the 2020 phase of that agreement.
And trading activities gradually picked up across markets in the country, with traders hopeful that prices of food items will normalize.
And let's say in June we are buying 1 cow, 2020. But when dry season come, cow they buy 220, we are buying 250, 280, 300,000 naira.
We are selling, sometimes we get 7,000, 7,500, sometimes we get 5,500. So the high price where it goes is 11,000 to up to 1,000. That's the higher price. You understand? So this 2021, inshallah, by the grace of God, we are expecting tomato to condemn per annum to match. At least can get as 5,000, 4,555.
And in other global market reports, Dubai shares of Saudi Aramco were down by 1.7% in late afternoon trade on Sunday, hitting 34.55 riyals, $9.21 per share, its lowest level since it started trading in December last year after a record initial public offering IPO. The U.S. killing of Iran's most senior military commander reverberated through Middle Eastern markets, sending stocks into retreat and setting the tone for what's likely to be a volatile week. With business news, Comfort Amadou.
And still staying on the economy, the drive by the federal government to promote digital economy is yielding significant impact in governance, education, economy, as well as increased revenue generation.
Stakeholders who shared their thoughts are of the view that greater impact is possible across board if issues of stable power supply, high bank charges, and establishment of broadband infrastructure are squarely addressed. Joy Uzo reports.
In pursuance of the promotion of digital economy, the federal government recently launched the National Digital Economy Policy. Part of the objective is to help the Nigerian government and their citizens leverage on the huge potentials inherent in the sector to grow the economy and create jobs. In Rivers State, the University of Port Harcourt is housing one of the regional innovation and incubation centers intended to training people on ICT engineering skills towards stimulating the digital economy.
If you want to establish a digital society, there is need for you to have centers where indigenes and citizens are going to be trained.
The BVN, for instance, the IPPIS payment salary, the single treasury exactly account. These have all helped.
The successes recorded in e-commerce, e-taxation, transportation, agriculture and education, to some experts, are a huge contribution to the development of digital development on ICT skills, bearing in mind that Nigeria has a population advantage to maximize the benefits of the emerging digital economy. So far, a recent release by the National Bureau of Statistics indicates that for the third quarter of 2019, the contribution of information and communication technology to Nigeria's gross domestic products surpassed that of the oil and gas sector in the second quarter of same year. In Port Harcourt, Joy Uzo, NTA News.
And in other news, President Muhammad Buhari has expressed determination to address infrastructure deficit in the southeast region of the country.
The Minister of State for Mines and Steel Development, Uche Oga, who represented the President, gave this indication while inaugurating and handing over erosion and road rehabilitation works at Uzakoli in Bende local government area of Abia State. Here is Steve Lonai Nwaokolo with the rest of the story.
Minister of State for Mines and Steel Development, Uche Oga, who represented President Muhammadu Buhari, told the people that the completion of the project is an indication that the President has their interests at heart, and indeed the entire Southeast, promising that more projects are on the way, particularly Part 2 of the project, which is the asphalting of the improved road.
The President has shown us that everything is possible.
Impressed by the concerns shown by the federal government, the traditional ruler of Uzwakole, Ancient Kingdom, conferred chieftaincy titles on the Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, and the Comptroller General of Immigration, Mohammed Babandede. A civic reception was held to honor prominent sons and daughters of Uzwakole. In Uzwakole, Abia State, Steve Lonai, NTA News.
And from Benue State comes this report that the federal government has inaugurated and handed over 2 completed erosion and flood control projects to Benue State government for full ownership by the benefiting communities.
The projects, fully financed by the Ecological Fund Office, are meant to checkmate perennial flooding challenges and improve the living standards of the people. Husseini Mohammed Isa tells us more.
The ecological intervention projects of the federal government is expected to address the age-long problem of gully erosion and flooding in parts of the country. One of such projects at the Alex Akweme Federal Teaching Hospital at Abakaliki is a testimony to the present administration's resolve that no parts of the country will suffer neglect owing to its geographical location or political consideration. Minister of Science and Technology believes that the living standard of the hospital community would be enhanced and reduce dangers of lives and property associated with erosion.
Doing this for our people, we have seen the tremendous benefits which this project has already brought to this great hospital, which will be very...
I think he loves Ebonyi so much. Probably he saw Ebonyi on that list and he decided to take that.
The project has actually raised the status of this hospital to confirm with the teaching hospital which we are.
The handing over is expected to achieve dual purpose of enabling the hospital to exercise the ownership and ensure its maintenance for sustainability. In Abakaliki, Kingsley Okoro, NTA News.
Well, that report was actually for Enugu State and not Benue, as we earlier said. Meanwhile, Nigeria's First Lady Aisha Buhari has sent donations of food items to the less privileged in the state.
This is to complement the federal government's poverty alleviation program, particularly in the reduction of suffering of women. Zara Umar Adamu has details.
Women groups, correctional centers, orphanage homes, and the less privileged benefited from the gesture of the wife of the president, Aishatu Muhammadu Buhari, aimed at improving their livelihood and giving them a sense of belonging. Wife of Gombe State Governor Asmau Muhammadi Inuayhaya distributed the items, which included 1,000 bags of rice, 600 cartons of pasta, and 300 jerrycans of 25 liters vegetable oil on behalf of the First Lady.
Very happy that the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria remembered Gombe State in this kind gesture. We really appreciate that and we're very grateful.
Future Assured Program. Zara Umar Adam, NTA News.
And if you just joined in, you're watching the news at 10 here on the network service of the NTA. We have more news to come, including